This thing called First Lego League Robotics Competition. So these guys are before November 16th are responsible for building a robot that competes in a competition. So this is like one of the ones we're working on now.
Okay.
The program to I guess do all these different tasks on a big tournament table that's identical for the other teams, and whoever gets the most points because their robot the most great. If that was all of it, we'd be good. The problem is there's also this other section where you have to research a problem and get a solution for it. So we're looking for something. We chose wildfires as a natural disaster. I think it was a hot topic, right?
It was.
You know, we don't have much of it going on in our wet Vermont right now this season. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Eric in the back is also a firefighter in Vermont, so, and one of the coaches on the team together with me. So, quickly, why don't you guys just go around and introduce yourselves quickly?
First name?
Tyler. Hi, Martina. Lulu. Kai. Isadora. Dalton.
Great. So Brian, by the way, one of the right is my brother. And why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hey guys, my name's Brian. I'm Mr. Grace's brother. I'm a firefighter in Florida, and I've been a fireman about 25 years now. And Mr. Grace approached me about doing this wildfire thing, and wildfires really isn't my game. So I got my buddy Carl, works for Department of Forestry for the state of Florida, and he is going to be, I consider him the expert. He has many years of experience. He's on a very busy unit here in Florida, so we're lucky to have him here in our city. So hopefully he can answer some of your questions.
Perfect. Let me grab our questions. We have some questions that we'll ask, and then we'll kind of get into. Here you go. Isadora, you want to start us off, and then we'll just kind of go around. Starting with the black ones on the bottom.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
So, we were curious.
Little louder.
We were curious what your official job title is.
My job title is a forest ranger.
Cool.
So what does that entail?
Basically, there's different types of forest ranger. I am a fire control forest ranger that all I do is fight wildfires throughout the entire state. And then we also have state land forest rangers that maintain our state forests.
Okay. Kyle, you want to ask the next question?
Thanks so much.
How long have you been fighting fires?
I've been doing wildfires now for 8 years, and I did structure fires for about 5 years before that.
Where were some of the bigger fires you fought?
The biggest wildfire I've had was in February of 2011. It was at 18,000 acres in Bay.
Wow. Did you say 18,000?
18,000 in less than 24 hours.
And that's in one day. That's not the total amount that burned.
Yeah, that's just one day.
Wow. And where was that?
That was just south of New Smyrna, probably about 8 miles.
And those of you who don't know where New Smyrna Beach is, we're on the east coast of Florida, right central Florida. We're just below Daytona Beach, kind of 40 miles. We're actually about 70 miles away from Disney World, headed towards the beach.
That's a good landmark for these guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I figured they didn't know where Daytona Beach was, so we'll throw Mickey out there.
That's right.
I get a kickback from Disney.
Lulu, you can ask the next question.
Okay. What sort of strategies do you use when fighting fires, and how do they differ from time to time?
The strategies will differ on the fire intensity, on how intense the fire is acting. Like on the Iron Horse fire that was 18,000 acres, you were in defense mode, just protected everything you could.
What are some of the things that you were trying to protect?
I'm sorry?
What were you trying to protect? Like homes or?
Homes, different like vehicles that were abandoned. You had hunting camps, 95, Interstate 95. We had to make sure that no damage was done to it.
Recently, we had 95 that was closed down for, was it a week? For about a week. And, that is enormous for the commerce with, the traffic and the business that comes through there, the truckers. And to have that section of I-95 rerouted was just enormous. So, we had to really step it up. And we closed 95 after the fire because they were afraid about falling trees falling across the interstate. So it wasn't just the smoke and the visibility, it was actually after the fact of the trees actually falling across 95.
And the car accidents that occur within the smoke is a major problem as well.
Oh, wow. So when you guys are protecting infrastructure like roads and stuff, what does that mean for a wildland fire? What kind of equipment do you guys take with you?
I run a tractor plow unit, which is the John Deere 650 with a fire plow on the back, and we put in fire lines. Basically what we do.
Do you guys know what a fire line is?
Yeah.
Do you know the purpose of a fire line?
No, go ahead.
Well, you know how structure firefighters, they use water. They cool the fire. Well, what I do is I remove the fuel so there's nothing to burn. That's what we use the dozer for. We get in there and cut the fuel away so the fire has nothing to burn.
There's a few different ways of putting a fire out. One of them is obviously to cool it by water, putting water on it. But Carl's theory is he has to cut that fire line, which varies in different width, and actually take that fuel away. So, just like if you have a campfire at home, if you don't want it to burn anymore, you take the logs and the fuel out of the campfire. Same theory.
Is that kind of crushing to you when you work to create a fire line and the fire jumps it or crosses it? That's a lot of work.
Yes, and on an 18,000 acre fire, it jumped our fire lines nonstop. You figure you're talking like 50 to 60 foot flames, and your fire line's only about 6 feet wide. So we averaged probably about 20 tractors wide, and it was still jumping our lines.
Wow.
And getting back to the original question of the tactics, each day is different for the tactics. You have different weather conditions. You have the wind speed. I know you're going through a wet season in Florida right now. So your tactics would be a little bit different being wet. We're wet right now, but we're coming into our dry season. So that, being in dry season, the tactics are different even before that fire even starts. We'll have more tractors available, more brush trucks available. So everything is different depending on the day, the weather conditions, and the fuel load. You could have grass, you could have it deep in a woods or the brush. So there's a lot of different things that cause tactics to change.
And Florida will actually burn wet because of the fuel has toxic oils in it. All the palms and palmetto have a toxic oil in it that will burn wet.
Oof, wow. So where do you guys get your information from when you're out in the field fighting a fire? Who gives you weather reports and reports on the conditions? How do you guys come across that information?
I do everything from my smartphone.
So you're getting
I'm pretty
updates?
self-sufficient as far as that goes. They pretty much train you to do everything on your own. If you're having issues with any kind of service, you can contact our dispatch office and they'll relay everything. Now on a large-scale fire, you'll actually have someone that's assigned just to weather, and they will report every 30 minutes of what's going on.
And that's wind
And I'm in a different department than Carl. I'm with a structure fire department, and we get a wildfire update every morning about 9 o'clock, and they give us the current conditions.
So what's the next one here? What's the scariest part?
Mr. Grace, those kids don't look like they're prepared, man.
Do you want to ask a question about this?
What is the scariest part of fighting wildfires?
The serious part that you might not make it home that night.
Carl is working. I mean, he's up and close and personal to that wildfire. I mean, it's almost touching his tractor. When I go to a house fire, I have the luxury of having an air pack on my back or and a mask on my face, so I'm protected that way. Carl doesn't have that. He has to be able to see in that tractor. If you ever sat in that tractor, it's surrounded by a cage. So visibility is terrible, just the cage alone. The smoke, and it could be at night. There's a lot of different things that make it scary. Like I said earlier, and I wasn't just saying it was Carl, we're very fortunate to have Carl and his experience with us.
Yeah, we actually, New Smyrna and Volusia County is the most active wildfire county in the state of Florida. I ran the most wildfires the past 3 years, me personally.
Wow.
Are you, what are the fire, I mean, you're in Volusia County, Florida, but do you travel to other fires?
Yes, sir. I went to Utah and Idaho this year as well on a hand crew, fighting fire out there, helping out.
So what do they just reach out to other fire?
They reach out to the state, and the ones of us that are qualified to work on a federal level are then asked if we want to go out.
Now, and Carl can help me out here. When he does that, when he goes out west, his working hours are a little bit different out there than here. I think his hours right now are 8 to 5, and then he goes home. And then I think he's especially called in on during the busy season. But when he goes out west, is it 16-hour days?
16-hour days. Yeah. And back home, what we do is when there are fires, they keep you until they're done. You know, I've worked 28 hours straight in that dozer with no sleep.
Do you get summers off like us?
What's that?
Do you get summers off like the teachers?
Well, in essence, I do, because you can ask them. They pretty much watch me sit around the station with nothing to do as of right now.
We're in our rainy season right now, and we haven't seen Carl do too much work.
No.
But we know coming in another couple of months, we will never see him because he'll always be. And what happens, I'll get, as a structure department, as a regular city department, I will get dispatched to a brush fire. And then when I get on scene, if I can't handle it, I call the tractor, and then they'll start cutting lines around it. So we work hand in hand.
And we're actually getting ready to start doing prescribed burning, where we'll go out and start burning the forests and stuff.
Do
Preventative.
you guys know what prescribed burns is?
Go ahead, say it.
A prescribed burn is a way to burn off all that fuel. Because if we don't do prescribed burns, a fuel load, those trees, those bushes, that grass in the woods gets so thick that it will actually increase the fire load. So we try to prescribe burns throughout the year.
Yeah. Easiest way to look at it is it's a controlled wildfire. It's a wildfire that we control.
So what are the biggest innovations that you've seen in the fire industry as of late for wildland firefighting? I know you've got the big tractor dozer, which is helpful, but what might you forecast for the future that would be helpful as a wildland firefighter?
We were just talking about earlier. I mean, right now helicopters are a big help because then you got some eyes in the sky and you can anticipate. We've even discussed, looking into drones ourselves.
Really?
Yeah, we've talked about it because what a help, me as a single firefighter, on average, I work by myself most of the time. They don't send us out in groups like the structure guys. I'm by myself in that dozer, and if I can't handle it, I request more help. But if I had a little drone where I could fly it up and see what was going on ahead, you can kind of pre-plan on what's going on.
Because what would be the advantage of a drone? It can get closer than a helicopter could, or?
Well, look at it this way. A helicopter, on average, you requested is a minimum of about $8,000 an hour.
Really?
So kind of look at it that way.
Okay.
Financially, if I had a little one of those little $400 drones you can fly from your smartphone, I could actually size up the fire from the ground, and I wouldn't need that $8,000 an hour helicopter.
And when does a fire get so big that you got to call in tanker planes or helicopters with buckets? When does that happen?
The biggest problem we have in Florida is, on average, to get a tanker, it takes about an hour to an hour and a half for it to get there.
Where's it coming from?
It comes usually out of Ocala or Lake City, which, that's quite a ways away
It's
from
about
us.
3-hour drive time.
So you figure by the time they get down here, most likely those houses are gone. So you'd have to see that far in advance what the fire was going to do. I've only seen one come one time, and it saved one house. So that was $15,000 for one house.
Wow.
We've
Staff
seen
with
the
the company job,
videos.
everything is done based on money.
Hey, what Carl didn't tell you was his house.
Actually, on the Razzle Road fire.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I made that up. It wasn't Carl's house.
We watch the videos over and over on YouTube of those tanks. Does it make a difference? Can you see when they came through? It does something?
Yes, they call it a painted line, because what it does, and a lot of people don't know, is it keeps it from burning, but it's also fertilizer, so it helps restore the natural state after the fire is over. But it does, and it also gives us as firefighters a place to run in the event, you know, it gets bad.
Is it the same way out west?
Yes. Yeah.
So you
Usually out west, when they're using airplanes and stuff like that, they have actual aviation staging areas set up. They have airplanes and helicopters running non-stop.
Okay.
And they're fighting fires. They're fighting multiple fires at once. They will get redirected to different fires in that area.
Do you ever use, I've seen, I think I've seen it, or maybe I'm imagining it, like helicopters that use like giant buckets where they go around a lake or some body of water.
That's what we use here in Florida. When we have houses in danger and the fire departments can't get close enough to protect them all, we will call in the helicopters to come in and protect those homes and cool down the fire as it's hitting near those homes.
How many gallons is that bucket?
The buckets usually range anywhere from like 200 to 500 gallons.
That's a big bucket.
And I can get a helicopter here within usually 30 to 45 minutes.
Wow.
What is the worst part of fighting fires?
The worst part?
Yeah.
I don't know, I actually enjoy it. When I'm in that tractor, I feel like I'm playing a big video game. It's exactly what it is. The joysticks, it's like playing the old Afterburn game in the arcade.
You know, and it's funny because I always say throughout my career, earlier in my career, I used to like doing the brush fires and wildfires, but as I get older, they are so much work that it's dirty, it's hot, you can't breathe, and if I get dispatched to a brush fire, I hate it, man. I'd rather go to a house fire any day of the week, but that's why Carl does his deal and I do my deal.
Hey, we have to ask a question about that. I don't know if it's the last defense, I assume it is. Those survival tents, well, what do you call
They
them?
call it a fire shelter.
So can you just talk a little about what they are, how it works?
That is a big, big commitment thing. When you get in that, you are committed to it. I don't know if I could do it. I think I'd have to try running. You know, I don't know if you heard about the 419 that we lost this year.
Yeah.
You know, figure, you're basically wrapping yourself up like a baked potato and hoping for the best.
What's the success rate of those things?
Success rate?
That depends on a lot.
It depends on what you call success. A lot of them have lived, but the quality of life is very dependable.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Wow. So it gets pretty hot
The 19
inside.
this year had no chance because the fire intensity was so great.
Did they deploy it all?
Every one of them.
They all deployed.
Yeah.
See, they actually deployed their shelters and it was too much.
The problem is they had 2 minutes to clear a spot to deploy in. That's how fast the fire was moving on them.
Wow.
So that's all they had was 2 minutes. You know, here in Florida, we're not fighting fire in like pine needles and sagebrush. We're fighting in like 20-foot palmetto. I don't know if you ever tried to run through palmetto. You can't do
You
it.
can't do it, yeah.
So usually by the time I think I would need the fire shelter, it would be too late already. You know, out west you have a little bit more time because it's on a flatter, you know, it's on a lighter fuel than what we have here in Florida. We're one of the only states that burns when it's green.
Ooh. Wow. Hey, do you guys have questions not on the list or anything that you want to ask that you've heard or anything you want to learn more about?
Well, I was
A
wondering.
little louder.
I was wondering what you personally think is the greatest risk for that a firefighter is willing to take, or you are willing to take.
Honestly, firefighters different.
I guess it's like the personal level of danger you set yourself in. It's like how close.
Your comfort level, what are you comfortable with?
Yeah.
You know,
There's a saying out here, and it's called risk a lot, save a life, and risk a little to save nothing. If that property is already burnt, you're not gonna risk your life or risk getting hurt over burned out property or burned out house. But if there's a house being saved or a life to be saved, that's when you're going to take a little more of a risk. Make sense?
Yeah.
You both talked about structures, like houses and things, and protecting those. When the fires are just in the dense woods, do you attack it with the same intensity, or how do you gauge that?
Actually, generally, yes, we do. And the reason is because here in Florida, most of our timber is someone's livelihood. You know, we've got some of the largest tree farms here in Volusia County, you know, and they want that protected more than their homes usually because it's more valuable to them.
So here's a question for me, because you said when you're fighting a fire and you're driving your tractor, you're using your smartphone to help you navigate. What do you use? I don't think there's an app for that. What do you use to help navigate so you know where you are?
There actually is an app for that. It's called GPS Kit.
Okay.
And it actually will let me track the other firefighters on that fire, where I can see where they're at and where they've been with their dozer.
No kidding. Wow.
Yes, sir.
How cool is that?
Is the smartphone given to you by the people you work for, or is it?
Unfortunately not.
So those who don't have smartphones don't have that?
Correct.
Good question.
So what's this called?
Yeah.
What's the app called?
But what's
Can you
nice
say
is we
both
don't
the
even
app-
have fires at night, so you're fighting fire blind. You got that map where you can still see the land. You know,
Right.
our biggest problem is swamps here in Florida. A
Okay.
swamp will suck a tractor down just as soon as you touch it. So you really got to learn your terrain and your soil. You know, sand you can go all day, but as soon as you hit a little bit of muck in that swamp, you're stuck. So now you're fueled with that fire coming towards you.
Oh, and Carl hasn't even talked about the snake issues and the wildlife issues.
Yeah.
Oh, and the snakes that hang out in the trees and
Yes.
oh. Do y'all have snakes up there?
They say we have rattlesnakes, but people rarely see them.
We don't have any poisonous snakes in Vermont.
Well, the Florida water moccasin will actually attack the bulldozer and latch onto the track and will stay there.
It is the nastiest looking snake you'd ever seen in your life. Dirty too. Oh.
And they are not afraid of anything.
Wow.
There's
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the last couple of questions, so we don't hold you guys all day.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to think of?
Well, let me ask you this: what do any of the students live by the woods?
We're in
Do they
Burlington.
back up to? Do they back up to any woods?
Do you guys back up to any woods?
No.
What about you, Isidore?
I back up to an abandoned quarry which has some trees in it.
An abandoned quarry? no.
No,
Well,
it's
no.
abandoned, but it's not. It's
I don't quarry, yeah. No,
Even if you don't back up to any woods, your house still could be an exposure. Your house, and I'll try to talk in layman's terms. Your house is still in danger from flying embers. If you don't clean your gutters or the valleys of your roof, you're still taking a chance at having your house, be affected by that fire. So you have to have your parents or your aunt and uncle or an adult get up on that roof and clean that roof and clear out the dead leaves that are around your house. Because those embers will travel a quite a distance and affect your house.
And in Florida, we recommend a minimum of 30 feet around your house, which is bare vegetation other than like grass.
Wow.
I'm going to put that on the to-do list for my wife this weekend.
Yeah, you don't want. Why should you do it when you can go ride your bike?
Yeah, I got to ask the question about wildlife. Like, what happens to all the animals during the wildfire? You can ask that. I mean, do they have like spidey senses? And they
They are
get
smart. Let's put it this way: they're smarter than humans when it comes to that. A human will stand around and look when the animals are running. When you see a bunch of animals running, you know it's bad.
Yeah.
We had a wildfire. I think it was May of a few years ago, and it was a pretty substantial fire. And I can honestly say, me and my partner, we were actually chased by an alligator coming out of the lake. And it was funny because we were all cocky. We were standing on the side of the lake, like, "Hey man, look at that alligator!" And actually, just like what Carl said, all the animals were running. We didn't run. We watched the alligator until we realized, hey man, that guy's coming after us, and he came out of the water after us. It was the funniest thing. You know what we did the next day? We went back to the same lake with a video camera, hoping he does it again.
We'll get you on Tosh.
All right.
Any other questions, gang?
What do we have to say to these guys for taking their afternoon to talk to us?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And good luck with that project, and, maybe we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely. If we have any other questions, we know how to get a hold of you now.
Actually, I have a question.
Last question. Go ahead.
No, hey, no, the questions were closed. No, you can go ahead, you can go ahead.
What do you think are the most common ways that wildfires start
Oh, good question.
in Florida?
What was it?
What are the common causes of wildfires in
The
Florida?
most common in Florida is lightning.
It could be raining and have a lightning storm, and that can actually cause a fire.
Yeah.
If you believe that or not.
During a good lightning storm on average in Volusia County, you'll get probably anywhere from 5 to 10 fires started.
There are more lightning bolts, more lightning strikes in Central Florida than I think anywhere in the world.
Yes.
We're the lightning capital of the world.
Wow. Go Lightning.
Actually, if you think about it, we don't live in a very good area because we're the shark bite capital of the world too. So we've got more shark bites in the whole world than more lightning bolts.
Volusia County's busy.
My house is for sale if anybody wants to buy it. I'm getting it.
Lightning sharks.
Hey, do you, what was I going to say? When there's huge fires out west, I can't even tell you how many acres are burned up. They always seem to know how to track it down to some guy who started a campfire. How do they do that?
You'd be amazed. The fuels will actually tell you, like leaves will freeze in the direction that the fire was going. Like in structures, the light bulbs will follow the fire. In the woods, the leaves will follow the fire. You can also look at the charring on the bottom of the trees and which way the V pattern points.
Interesting.
Oh.
The fire is, whenever you see a tree and it's burnt on one side, that means the fire came from the other side. Because the flame will actually wrap around the tree and go up, causing a V formation.
Wow.
What's the penalty for people that cause these fires recklessly?
I honestly don't know. They hardly ever catch them. It's hard to catch arson. You actually have to witness them light it, put it on the ground, and leave.
You can suspect them, but to pinpoint it is another deal.
Rarely ever happens.
It's funny on the news they talk about, I've heard it a million times where they're like, they're sort of looking for the person who left that campfire kind of thing.
Yeah.
They probably never do the follow-up story whether they found it or didn't, but I think it makes for a nice news story.
You'd be surprised what you can do by just offering money out there. People in the neighborhood will track somebody down if they think you're going to get paid.
And do you have there's negligence, but there's also arson. Do you have people have you had fires that were caused by people maliciously?
Oh yes, yeah.
What's wrong with
Oddly enough, there is actually a volunteer firefighter in Volusia County that they just about pinpointed multiple fires on him.
Hey, we've got something worse. You can Google it. Last month, a volunteer firefighter burned down his firehouse. He set it on fire.
What town was that?
I don't know. Look it up. It was last month.
I actually think I saw
He
it.
got caught. They had video cameras in there. So, oops.
That's taking it a little too far.
Yes.
Yeah. He was like one of the newbies. I guess he wanted a little more action. They're getting your firehouse though.
Where is it?
I guess that's one way to do it.
Yeah, right.
Getting new equipment.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. We should say goodbye. Thanks so much for getting to us. I think we got a lot to work on.
Hey, kids, do we answer any questions?
You guys good?
Thanks.
Did we bore you at all?
No.
No.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take off. Good luck with your project.
Thanks a lot, man. We'll keep you updated.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.
That's pretty cool.
That worked really well. Yes.
River of the
That is true.
What's that?
Fact, Jack. Yeah, one of the kids.